Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to introduce you to another type of loop you can use in JavaScript called the do-while loop, okay? So we've seen the for loop and we've seen the while loop. So this one is called the do-while loop. And the key thing about the do-while loop is that the loop runs at least once, even if the condition it is checking for evaluates to false. So basically how it works is you declare your counter variable, then you have your do part of the do while loop. You're doing some piece of code while some condition is true. So let me just show you this, right, in terms of what the syntax looks like. So what it is you can have a counter variable. So for example, I could say let counter be equal to, we'll say 1, start the counter at 1. And then what you do is you do some piece of code, okay? You can do multiple lines as well. Multiple lines of code. Okay. You do while some condition is true. Okay. So that is the syntax of the do while loop. So you do some code while some condition is true. But what you'll notice is you're actually checking whether the condition evaluates to true or false after the code has executed at least once. So the key thing about the do while loop is that the code will run at least once. Okay, right, let me show you this in action. Well, let's create a counter variable. We'll just say I. We'll say let I be equal to, we'll say 1. Okay, then what we want to do is we want to run some code in here. So we'll say console.log I am in the loop number. Then we just have I, and remember we have to as well we have to keep track of what loop we're on. So because we're going to count up, I'll use the increment operator here. So we'll say I plus plus, and then we're going to check our condition. So we want to run the code inside of the do part of the do while loop while some condition is true. And maybe we just want to run the loop while I is less than or equal to 10. So we could say, well, I is less than or equal to 10. So what do you think is going to happen? Well, remember, all of this code is just comments, okay? That's not going to run. So we're saying let I equal 0. We're initializing our counter variable I with 1. And remember, I is just shorthand syntax for really counter. Then we have the do keyword. And inside of curly braces, we're going to run some code. So all we're doing is we're just doing a single line statement here. We're saying console.log I am in loop number I. After that code executes, we then use the increment operator to add 1 to our counter. So you've seen now the increment operator many times. That is the increment operator. Then we have the while keyword, and that's going to run while some condition is true. So what's going to happen is I is going to have a value of 1. We're going to log out of the console. I am in loop number 1. Then what we do is we check to see whether the condition is true. So I is less than or equal to 10, that evaluates true, and then we add 1 to our counter. Okay, so the increment operator, that happens after the condition has been checked. So what this means is, even if this was false, even if I had a value of 11, the loop would run at least one time. So let me just save and refresh. So you see here, I'm in loop number 1 to 10. If I was to change I to be 11, what do you think is going to happen? Well, the loop will still run at least once because we're saying I is equal to 11. Then we come down here to do. So it's going to say console.log I am in loop number I 11. Okay. Then it's going to check the condition. Then it says, okay, 11 is less than or equal to, it's going to say, okay, that's false. I shouldn't run the loop anymore. And then, essentially we increment I, but we don't enter the loop again. So if we just save and refresh, we get I am in loop number 11. Okay, so the key thing about the do while loop is that it runs at least once, and that is because you're checking the condition whether it evaluates to true after the loop has executed or ran at least one time. Okay, so that is the do while loop in JavaScript. I'll see you in the next tutorial.